Anna's, French Park Plaza, Historic French Park, French Court, Logan, Lacy, and downtown neighborhoods. We will begin our meeting in 45 seconds to allow attendees in the waiting room to join us. Spanish language interpreting is also available for the meeting, and instructions are included on the slide that's being displayed. And so once again, welcome to the joint meeting of Santa Ana's French Park, Plaza, Historic French Park, and a number of other neighborhoods in the vicinity of downtown. And we will be starting our meeting in approximately 30 seconds. Instructions for those interested in Spanish interpretation are provided on the screen. There's a separate phone-in line to receive Spanish interpretation for our meeting tonight. Thank you very much. While we're waiting for the rest of our attendees to join the meeting, we're going to kick off with a poll. And so on your control panel, you should have the ability to provide a response to this poll. And so we'll be launching that right now. So you should see the poll on your screen. Have you been participating in many virtual meetings since COVID-19? We'll leave that poll open for just a minute or so that people will start to respond what their experience has been. And it's looking like, wow, nearly 80% of our participants, 70% of our participants have been on 5 or more of these virtual meetings since COVID-19. And 14% of our participants are saying this is their first virtual meeting. And so welcome, welcome. It's so great for you to participate. We're going to close the poll now. And these are the poll results for that particular question. We've got one other poll question real quick before we kick off our meeting. We have one other quick question for you guys. Well, we'll come back. We'll come back to that poll. All right. Welcome. My name is Scott Kuttner, and welcome to the July 2020 Joint Neighborhood Meeting hosted by staff from Santa Ana's Neighborhood Initiatives Program. I'd like to recognize our Santa Ana City Council member, David Penaloza, who is participating tonight. I would also like to acknowledge our neighborhood leaders participating, including Joe Andrade and Sam Romero of the Logan neighborhood, Jeff Dickman of Historic French Park, Venancio Chavez of the French Park Plaza HOA, Tish Leone of the downtown neighborhood, Scott and Dora Burnett of the French Court neighborhood, Ruben Garcia, Laura Garcia, and Jose Leal of Lacy. I do apologize if I've neglected to acknowledge any of our neighborhood leaders participating tonight, but we all greatly appreciate your dedication and work on behalf of the Santa Ana community. Many business and property owners along Civic Center Drive have also joined us tonight. And so it's kind of a who's who of major businesses along Civic Center that have expressed an interest in the activities and the plans associated with Civic Center Drive. And so we welcome your participation as well. In addition, special thanks to the behind the scenes production staff provided and assistance provided by Margarita Macedonio, Alyssa Ventura, and Narcy Perez. Before we introduce tonight's meeting agenda, we wanted to remind you that your comments, observations, thoughts, and questions are very important. Please use the question box in the control panel during the meeting for this. And given our time constraints, we will do our best to address them. To the extent that your question isn't asked and answered tonight, rest assured that we will follow up to obtain responses and route them to you after the meeting. Once again, I'd like to also announce that Spanish language interpretation is being provided and that there's a separate call-in line that's available for that purpose. Our agenda tonight includes 3 topics. First up will be a brief overview by a UCLA design class on a new public realm revitalization study of the Orange County Civic Center that's underway, and a request for preliminary feedback and participation by residents through an online survey. Our second agenda item will be a presentation by the developer of the proposed 4th and Mortimer development project, a new 169-unit mixed-use development. And our third presenter will be Santa Ana's Public Works Agency, presenting an update on the construction schedule and project features for the Civic Center Bike Boulevard project and the Bush Street Bicycle Boulevard from Civic Center to 7th Street. At this time, I would like to recognize Chuck Ware and his team of students interested in your comments and observations about the Orange County Civic Center. Chuck, we've got your mic on and we're activating your camera.
And we'll go to the first slide, please. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, Chuck, we can hear you.
Okay, my name is Chuck Ware, and I am a practicing planner, urban designer, and landscape architect, and I also teach public space design at UCLA. And I wanted to thank Scott for facilitating our participation in the session tonight, and to all of you for attending. I'd like to suggest that the purpose of our portion of the meeting is to just initiate the process of collecting community input regarding our forthcoming Civic Center study. And we're interested in your comments on the current state of the Civic Center and its potential, its great potential role as a great civic destination. So any comments regarding issues, problems, or opportunities are welcome. I should tell you about the UCLA Landscape Architecture program very briefly. It's a very well-established program entering its 5th decade. Faculty are all practicing professionals, and we promote the very ambitious role of design in addressing big global issues. So there's high aspirations for the program in this design studios. The specific purpose of this study, it's aimed at conceptual revitalization of the exterior public spaces in the Civic Center. And we are interested in a transformative role for these public spaces rather than just sort of fiddling around a little bit. Last year, we initiated the study in collaboration with a range of city and county agencies. This year, we're also working with the Neighborhood Initiatives Group, program, I should say, and Downtown Inc. We're working to make significant improvements to the 2019 effort, partly by placing greater emphasis on community engagement, and secondly, improving downtown relationships. So that's my introduction. From here, Lisa would now like to highlight some in-progress analyses. There will be 5 of us who make some contributions to this presentation before we open it up for some comments and discussion. Next slide, please.
Hi, my name is Elisa Moffett, and I'm going to summarize our site analysis. We initiate the design process with site analysis to identify the problems and opportunities in a site, and also to set a baseline to measure future successes. I will briefly run through our conclusions. The Civic Center has unrealized opportunities for placemaking ambiance. There is a minimal daily social or recreational use. The Civic Center is disconnected to adjacent urban districts. And there are unrealized opportunities to tap into downtown economic vitality. We also found opportunities to create an environment that inspires a sense of safety. Opportunities exist to improve views by designing landscape-based scenic quality. The spatial structure of the Civic Center currently lacks cohesive spatial hierarchy and sequence, and there is a great opportunity to utilize trees to perform spatial and environmental functions. There is a pervasive hardscape and rooftop surfaces combined with a lack of green space that limits sustainable water management practices. Hot hardscape conditions require shade and ventilation, and there is a proliferation of buildings with non-transparent ground floor facades that compromise the public space vitality. Regarding maintenance and operations, we find that great public spaces require holistic maintenance commitments. Your input is essential to our deeper understanding of the problems and opportunities we seek to address as designers. We thank you for participating and look forward to hearing your perspective. Next slide.
Scotty, you need to unmute?
There we are. I'm unmuted.
Okay, very
Hi.
good.
So I'm just going to briefly talk about the history of civic centers in cities across America, and then draw upon some examples of current civic centers that are in the process of their revitalization plans right now. At the turn of the century in the 1890s, there was something called the City Beautiful movement, and a lot of cities across America started building these big grand civic centers, a lot of what we see today, and had large open spaces, formal landscaping, and big fancy Beaux Art style city halls. And these had a lot of benefits and they were really gorgeous, but we're also realizing that they have some shortcomings. Some of these main shortcomings are that they aren't necessarily connected to the rest of the city, and they can get really quiet on weekends and in the evenings. Next slide. So what cities are doing across America right now is trying to reconnect their civic center spaces to the rest of the city. In Los Angeles, they're creating what's called an innovation district, where they bring in more innovative businesses. San Francisco is trying to make their civic center an example of sustainability. Cleveland is working to reconnect their civic center area to the rest of the city and also reconnect it to the lakefront. They built a large freeway that cut off the civic center from the lake, and they're gonna, I think, build back over that and reconnect the civic center to the lakefront and the rest of the city. And in Long Beach and Denver, we can see that they're trying to create a more mixed-use district. This means bringing in more retail and bringing in more residential. And not only does this make civic centers more vibrant, but it can also provide some funding for the events and other opportunities that happen in civic centers. And so we can look at these examples as we move forward and we think about Santa Ana. Next slide.
Good evening. My name is Rachel Dwork, and I'm here to introduce a brief survey that we've put together to collect your thoughts and gauge your opinion towards opportunities for the Santa Ana Civic Center. Topics include reason for visiting the Civic Center, accessibility, amenities, programming, and plant material. Ultimately, we want your input to guide our design process. The survey has 12 questions. It's in a checkbox format with opportunities to provide written short answers if you feel that we've overlooked an idea. You will receive an email by Monday from the City of Santa Ana Constant Contacts with links and QR codes that direct you to the survey. It is also available to download from this presentation. There will be both English and Spanish options for the survey. We greatly appreciate your participation and we look forward to learning from your response. Thank you. Next slide, please.
Rachel, did you want to open up the survey itself, or would you prefer not to do that now by clicking on the link? We can come back to that. You're muted. Rachel is muted. Maybe I'm muted too.
No, I can hear you, Chuck.
Okay.
Now I'm unmuted.
We don't have to do that if you'd like.
I can't change the screen. Alyssa had to click the link.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Alyssa, do you want to do that real quickly? Do you mind?
Thank
Thank
you.
you. You can just scroll through it. This is what you will receive. You could click on Next, Alyssa, at the bottom of the screen to open up the questions. And that's all we need to do, I guess, as a preview. This is a really important survey, so we appreciate everyone getting to it. Thanks, Alyssa. Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Katie Kirkpatrick, and I'm just here to kind of wrap up the session. And now that you guys have gotten a broad understanding of our study, we wanted to know if you found value in better connecting the Civic Center with the downtown and business community, and if so, how do you think that could occur? So we really appreciate you guys being here tonight.
And this is Scott Kuttner. I just wanted to remind people that to the extent that they have comments and observations that they would like to share with the team from UCLA in advance of the survey coming out, that they can use the questions box on your control panel here tonight, and you can enter any comments or observations that you have about the Orange County Civic Center. And your comments will be provided to the team at UCLA, and so they'll get them verbatim and they'll be able to review them and consider them as part of the work that's underway.
Thanks, Scott. Again, do you want to go to the next slide, Alyssa? We would really appreciate any input in the comment box or in the subsequent survey, as Scott suggested, because that'll really get our community outreach effort off to a great start. I have a few points to make about our process moving forward. This is a 10-week exercise, and it will culminate with a Tuesday, September 1st final presentation, and we'll look into how we can establish a good neighborhood-based audience for that presentation, most likely to be remote, of course. We are now working, as has been suggested, to analyze and collect community input. We hope to translate that community input into a conceptual plan and maybe even define some programmatic notions. I can't help but, yeah, one last point. Our ultimate goal is to promote the professional development of a master plan that engages all stakeholders, that focuses not only on exterior spaces, but more broadly to include potential for mixed use redevelopment and integration with the city fabric. This is my last point, Scott. We think there's a great opportunity to revitalize the Civic Center to become the heart of the Santa Ana and Orange County community, and a place to do much more than conduct business, a place to really celebrate public life, a place that builds upon the diversity and vitality of downtown Santa Ana. So we're really excited about this and hope this is a step in the right direction.
Thank you very much, Chuck. This is Scott, and thank you to you and your class. We have received a number of comments and observations, and I'd like to just spend a minute or two just sort of summarizing them. Our council member, David Penaloza, has inquired whether the survey will be available in Vietnamese. One of our colleagues, Manny Escamilla, is interested in your thoughts on multi-use districts rather than a single-use district itself. One of our participants was very, very enthusiastic and said, I love this. I'm thrilled that we were looking at how to best use this huge area. There's also an interest in connecting the downtown to the Civic Center and sort of pursuing some of those ideas. And then one other very lengthy kind of observation regarding reimagining more of a multi-use purpose and selecting more biodiverse California native plants to create more of a botanical garden walk, and something that perhaps for you guys to consider as a group. And so once again, we're very, very appreciative of comments and observations that people are sharing. And we will capture a record of all of your comments and observations and share them with the team from UCLA. Carla, for instance, has an observation that homelessness is an issue in the Civic Center area, and that businesses and luxury housing are really out of the reach of most of the population in Santa Ana, as most people are renters, and there's a significant rent burden. And so that's just a consideration that she would like for you to factor into some of your work. And so with that, I think we've captured some initial comments and observations. We encourage our Santa Ana community to participate in the survey that will be coming out early next week, so that we're able to capture even more of your comments and observations. And the team from UCLA will be able to work with us and our community to make the most of this opportunity. Chuck, any closing thoughts before we're able to move on to our next agenda item?
Well, just thanks so much for both the opportunity and the very insightful comments. They are extremely legitimate and helpful and otherwise appropriate. And I won't go through each of them, but I'll just say that they deserve our attention as we move forward. We will investigate the councilman's interest in a Vietnamese translation. I am not sure if I can commit to that now, but that's certainly something we'll work on. We understand the great diversity, demographic diversity in the city.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Chuck. At this time, I would like to recognize Juan Garcia, Community Engagement Liaison for Northgate Gonzalez Markets, to discuss the proposed 4th and Mortimer development project.
Yes, thank you, Scott. So good evening. On behalf of our team at Northgate Gonzalez and Red Oak Investments, I want to thank the City of Santa Ana and the neighborhood groups for allowing us to make a brief presentation of our proposed project. With me are Carl Middleton, who's president of Northgate Real Estate, and our project partner, Andrew Nelson, who's a principal at Red Oak Investments. Between the three of us, we will address questions you might have after the presentation. So if we could, okay, so we're looking at the opening slide right there. And that one right there gives a nice depiction of the type of murals and artistry that we're looking at. So we're actually working on final artistry that's going to help us to maybe reflect the history and the culture and the people of Santa Ana. And we are truly looking forward to coming up with something that everyone will be proud of. So if we could please go to slide number 2 that speaks to the project highlights. All right, so at this project right here, we have a mixed use building with a ground floor retail and 169 residential units spanning 2 blocks bounded by French Street to the west, Minter to the east, with 4th Street to the south and 5th Street to the north. The mix of residential units consists of 12% studios, 22% 1 bedroom, 39% 2 bedroom, 9% 3 bedrooms, and 20% for 4 bedrooms. This is a transit-oriented development that puts housing in the right place in the downtown area, as well as where the planned streetcar line will run. Recognizing that parking is oftentimes an issue, this one actually exceeds the parking standards at 2.35 stalls per unit. We've been working closely with city planning, and the project meets all city codes, planning guidelines, and the intent of the transit zoning code. Naming off a few of the project contributions and economic benefits, the project is anticipated to generate $9.3 million net benefit to the city general fund over 25 years. It's going to contribute $500,000 toward community parks and $450,000 to public schools. There's also going to be construction jobs and permanent future jobs that will result from this particular project right here. So next slide, please. All right, so this will take us to the general design. There's going to be, again, mixed use project that will include over 11,000 square feet of retail and restaurant areas on the ground floor of the west building. There's going to be a sky deck amenity that will be on the 7th floor of the west building as well. It's going to have enhanced landscaping that offers a nice pedestrian experience. The project is going to include visible public art component to it, and it's going to have quality amenities, architecture, and living spaces. As you can see right there to the left on that particular slide right there, this is an example of what Red Oak currently has at one of the properties that they currently own, where you have a nice amenity with a pool, sitting area, fireplace. We're going to have a gymnasium facilities, and all that right there is anticipated to be a part of the project. And then just up above that picture right there, you end up seeing a depiction of what potentially a kitchen might look like. They do have a project nearby over at in Costa Mesa on Baker Street, should any of you desire to take a quick visit and or speak with Andrew afterwards and see how we can maybe go ahead and arrange a visit. So next slide, please. Northgate has to be discussed in this particular matter right here because Northgate is the property owner. We are the developers. And so I think it's important to go ahead and talk about Northgate. We're blessed to be celebrating the 40th anniversary with success largely attributed to our valued customers and associates whom we consider family. We've been in Santa Ana since April 1993 and have 6 markets with over 1,200 associates, and nearly half of those right there are residents of the city. The Gonzalez family is committed to the city of Santa Ana and will continue to own and hold this property as part of their portfolio. A significant larger market is planned to be constructed at a nearby site. We are really excited in terms of where this particular project is going. Regrettably, right now, we can't announce the exact site, but we do plan on doing so in the very near future. We want to offer a market that provides a better shopping atmosphere, one that is very similar to many of the newer stores that Northgate operates. And I think that once people see the final product, they will be wowed about it. If anyone wants to visit a really nice one, they can actually travel north into La Habra and they will get a nice flavor for what the potential is for our new market. So the new market is going to have a fresh mercado format that is welcoming and provides a cultural shopping experience. It's going to have better parking and safer pedestrian circulation. As one has noted, the one we have currently right there at 4th Street is not the safest. And it's also going to have enhanced departments with a carniceria, cocina, tortilleria, panaderia, larger produce area, as well as additional nice offerings. Our customers are not going to be left without a market. I want to stress that right there. Northgate will provide local shopping access after closure of this market until the opening of the new one. No employees are going to lose jobs as a result of this. Northgate is committed to providing affordable housing and has partnered with C&C Development to build an affordable housing project in the nearby area. We hope to be able to go ahead and announce a site for that project as well very soon. So in summary, this project is consistent with the intent of the Transit Zoning Code. It places housing in the right place in the downtown area and where the planned streetcar line will run. I'm sorry, I should have told you to please move on to the next slide. Sorry. Okay, I'll start from the top right there. It's consistent with the intent of the Transit Zoning Code. And it has housing the right place in the downtown area where the planned streetcar line is going to run. It is parked above code at 2.3 stalls per unit. The project enhances the neighborhood and improves the pedestrian experience. It provides significant contributions to the city and schools through impact fees, vibrancy, jobs, and economic stimulus. Northgate Gonzalez will be the long-term owner. A new and better market will be coming, and we are very committed to affordable housing and are looking forward to this new opportunity. So that, in essence, is our brief presentation. And if we could go to the next slide. The next slide shows how you can go ahead and email and contact either Andrew or myself should you have further questions or you want to have a meeting to discuss the project later on. And at this point in time, we are open to have answering questions that you might have.
Thank you so much, Juan. I really appreciate the presentation that you and Andrew and Carl put together. We do have a few questions that have come in. And so we'll try and get to as many of those questions as we can. And to the extent that we're not able to get to your question, we will provide those to the team from Northgate and they will respond to you. So you will get answers to your questions for certain. Tabitha had a question about what percentage of the units will be for low-income residents.
Oh, I can take that one right there. This particular project right here will not include any residents or low income, but we do have the other project that we are currently working on with CNC Development. That one will, and it's really nearby.
Okay, very good. Jessica is asking whether she can get a copy of this particular presentation. And so perhaps she can email you or contact you after tonight and sort of make that ask, Juan, or?
Definitely, happy to.
Okay. Erica has a question regarding in lieu fees associated with the city's WHO ordinance, the Housing Opportunity Ordinance.
So yes, we are prepared to go ahead and pay the required WHO fees. And we've already gone ahead and reached agreement with the city as to whatever they might be.
Okay. There are a few questions regarding like the site plan and the design of the project itself. Tabitha is asking like where all the cars are going to park, basically like the rest of the cars that people have. There's also a question, will the apartment be on both sides of the street where the current market is, as well as the lot across the street? So it sort of speaks to like questions about the site plan itself.
You're on, Andrew.
Yeah, I can do that one. Good question. Maybe Alyssa Ventura, you could page down 5 times. And we have this one just shows location. That's the one we want right there. So here's the site plan for both blocks. The current store is on the left block, which is on the west at 4th and French. Of course, you know that. This development will cover both this block and the one to the east. So each block has its own parking garage. The parking garages are accessed off of 5th Street. And the colored boxes here, yellow and orange, are the residential units that surround the parking structures. The yellow units are 5 stories tall, and the orange units are 7 stories tall. It's 5 over the commercial spaces on the ground floor. So. And again, if we have a longer chance to talk with any of you that reach out, we'll show you more drawings and plans, and happy to do that.
Okay, excellent. There's a question from Erica whether there'll be an environmental impact report performed on this particular project.
I can do that one too, unless city staff wants to jump in. The analysis here is fitting under the environmental impact report that was done for the overall transit zoning code area. So we're fitting the project in under that, and with an addendum to that analysis, that's how it's being done.
Okay. There's another question related to the Housing Opportunity Ordinance. Isuri Ramos from the Kennedy Commission is asking how much will the developer be paying per square foot associated with the Housing Opportunity Ordinance?
Yeah, we'll comply with the city ordinance. So I believe that's $15 a foot at present, and that's we'll comply with that, or whatever the ordinance is at the time we're at council.
Okay, and then Carla, we have one or two other questions that we'll try and cover before we need to move on to the presentation from Public Works. And again, I want to share with each of you that we really appreciate your questions, and we will provide all of your questions to the development team so that you get an answer, even if your question isn't read tonight. The question from Carla is, what is the rate going to rent one of your units? She's trying to get an idea of what the rents will be essentially in the development itself, since it's market rate.
Yeah. Juan, you don't want to take that, or?
Go ahead if you're ready.
Well, rents are going up and down. At this time, we see a lot of ups, and then lately with the housing crisis, we see some changes. So short answer is these units will be ready in 3 years from now. We don't know where they'll be, but they'll be in line with market.
Okay. And then the final question for the team from Northgate, Isurdi Ramos is asking, when do you expect to go to the Planning Commission and the City Council on this project?
The hearing dates have not been set yet, but within a matter of weeks to months, I think we think we'll be there. So the studies are being finalized, and we're getting all the last pieces put together.
So I can maybe go ahead and chime in a tiny bit, unless city planning staff wants to speak to that right there. Ideally, our goal would be to go before the Planning Commission in September and City Council in October.
Okay, very good. Juan and team, any other final closing comments before we wrap up this particular agenda item?
Sure. I'll just go ahead and just make a couple of final comments, and that is that we want to make certain that we address the concerns of the local community, and that we partner, we work with one another, and we want to go ahead and address any concerns that are out there. We're truly excited about this particular project, and then also the potential for the other one that we're working on. And as I indicated before, we are looking forward to being able to go ahead and announce what that project is in the near term.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much, Juan Garcia. Thank you for the presentation. And again, for those who asked questions tonight, and unfortunately we weren't able to get to all the questions, we got to most of them, I think. We will be providing them to the development team, and Mr. Juan Garcia and his colleagues will be able to respond to you on those. So thank you again, Juan. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Scott.
At this time, I would like to recognize the presenters on our third agenda item. The team from Santa Ana's Public Works Agency will be presenting information on Civic Center Drive and Bush Street safety improvements. I would like to introduce our city engineer, William Galvez, and his colleagues from Public Works, who will be sharing an update with the community on this particular agenda item, which we initially started talking about almost a year ago. And so it's timely that we all kind of get an update on it. William, I'm passing this over to you.
Great. Thank you, Scott. My name is William Galvez, city engineer. In this room with me is Nabil Saba, our Public Works Director. I wasn't sure if he was going to be joining us, but I'm very happy to provide the community with some information. I wanted to thank Scott Kuttner and all of his neighborhood efforts to reach out to, in particular, 3 communities that are very interested in this project, and that's the Lacy, the Logan, and the French Park neighborhoods. So thank you all for participating. We're looking forward to receiving questions and comments from the community. Again, my name is William Galvez. Part of the team that's going to be talking about the status of these 2 projects is Zed Kekula. He's a senior civil engineer. He is critical to our public works efforts because he's involved in securing tens of millions of dollars in grants. And so I'll be excited for Zed to share some of his thoughts as to the benefits of this project. We also have Ken Nguyen. He's a senior civil engineer. He'll be talking to you a little bit about the Bush Street project. And we also have Gilbert Castillo. He's an associate civil engineer, and he'll tell you the latest update on the Civic Center construction. So next slide, please. So the presentation is going to be giving you, and not in this order, but we wanted to provide you with some of the traffic safety benefits that these projects bring. Really, it's the traffic safety benefits that allowed us to secure funding for this project. And then we wanted to give you a project summary of the Civic Center Bicycle Boulevard and the Bush Street Bicycle Boulevard. And right after providing you with those summaries, then we can also provide you with a construction status of those two projects. One of them is in the middle of construction. The other project is going to be starting construction. And then the last topic, which is really important, is we wanted to share what we heard from the community about a year ago, what we've been hearing from communities for several years. And just to let you know, it takes us 1 to 2 years to secure funds, and it takes us 2 to 3 years to deliver projects in terms of designing it and constructing it. And so it's really important for us to be in tune and to hear from the community as to what their concerns are, so that in the 4 or 5 years that it takes us to deliver the projects, we're really on target with them. Next slide, please. So the two projects that we're going to be talking to you about again is Civic Center Drive Bicycle Boulevard. It extends from Main Street to Santiago. And the other project is Bush Street Bicycle Boulevard, and it extends from Civic Center to 17th Street. Next slide. And Zed, this is yours.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Zed Kikula. I'm one of the senior civil engineers in the traffic section. And I want to start off by just talking briefly about the purpose or project benefits for both of these projects. First, one of the things that they obtained is they achieve a design to better share the roadway. In the past, many streets were designed with the car as a main focus. And slowly but surely, this design concept has been changing and evolving to make sure that the needs of all the users are incorporated on our network, our street network, that is.
Zed, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. This is Scott. If you could turn your volume down just a little bit. We're just starting to get some feedback off of your audio. I apologize.
No worries. Thank you. Is this better? Okay, so is this better? Hello?
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. That's better. Thank you.
Okay, I just want to make sure. So by considering the needs of all users, and like I said, these projects are the first one that we actually, some of the first projects that we do here in the city. This leads to an opportunity to have an enhanced safety road for all the users, especially for the most vulnerable users, which are the pedestrians and bicyclists. And lastly, improving the mobility and efficiency for all the users in the roadway. By having more transportation options for our community, there's increased mobility, so they could basically choose which way they want to go to and from the different destinations. Next slide, please. So the question then is, how are these benefits achieved? Well, they're achieved by implementing certain specific design features, such as the neighborhood traffic circle. Traffic circles provide an opportunity to slow the traffic down. It's called traffic calming. They calm the traffic by slowing vehicles' speed, the vehicle speed, and they do this by basically making a car, or a driver, I should say, have to navigate around the traffic circle. It's no longer a straight shot across an intersection. It's this maneuvering or navigating around the traffic circle that results in the reduced speeds. Second, traffic circles reduce the potential for crashes and conflicts. If you look at an intersection, a typical intersection, you have a lot of movements. You have cars turning left. You have cars turning right. You have cars driving through. All of these movements at an intersection actually end up being about 32 points of conflict in and around an intersection. And this is just your typical intersection. However, the traffic circles reduce those conflict points from 32 down to only 8. Traffic circles also reduce the severity of crashes. The severity of an accident is really dependent on the speeds. The higher the speeds, it's a no-brainer. There's more potential for accidents to have severe injuries. Traffic circles reduce the speeds, thereby they reduce the severity of the accidents. Most traffic accidents at traffic circles are actually more along the lines of fender benders. Finally, traffic circles also maintain very efficient mobility. So traffic circles are efficient at moving vehicles through with minimal delay. They do this, again, by having cars drive by at slower speeds, which is a very good thing. Next slide, please. Another design feature are bulb outs. So bulb outs are street narrowing that also serve to calm traffic. The narrower the cross section makes the roadway a little more uncomfortable for drivers to speed by at higher speeds. So this is how some speed reduction is accomplished by just physically narrowing the roadway. Bulb outs also increase the visibility between pedestrians and drivers. The bulb outs place the pedestrian in a better or more advantageous location closer to the roadway. So when a pedestrian is standing at this new location on the bulb out, if they look down the street, they could actually see further down the street, which gives them more opportunity to figure out whether it's safe to cross or not. By the same token, as a vehicle or a driver is approaching that same intersection, and there's a pedestrian stopped at that bulb out, they too could have more time to recognize and react appropriately to a pedestrian about to cross the street. Finally, bulb outs also shorten the crosswalks. This is done by reducing the crossing time. If the time to cross a crosswalk is reduced, this means the pedestrians spend less time exposed to vehicles while crossing the middle of the street. Next slide. All right. I think it's Gilbert's next.
One of the engineers helped design this project. So I want to talk about basically some of the highlights that kind of my colleague Zed pointed out that we implemented on this corridor. So I'll start off on Main Street. We did a traffic signal modification there for a dedicated left on the east and west side of it. And then we moved over to Spurgeon. Spurgeon, where they actually already built the bulb outs there on Spurgeon. It's just that's going to be hardscape, you know, and we're going to put a BMP measure there to kind of infiltrate some of the water there from the north side of Civic Center. The next one was Front Street. We did also a bulb out there on the south and north leg of Civic Center and French. In the next one is Metro. So this one has both of the features. It has the traffic circle and the bulb out treatment. And from here on, going towards the east, we'll have the same features on Lacy, Garfield, and Ponciera. So this one will have some actually the kind of start of the corridor of the landscaping area. So we'll have landscaping on all four corners and some landscaping inside the traffic circle. So this is kind of like the whole corridor is going to look really nice, you know, once it's all said and done. And the last one where we stop is at Santiago, and that one's just going to have bulb outs in that intersection. We couldn't put a traffic circle there because, you know, due to the training of the bus, some OCTA routes and stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much all the features that, you know, our colleague Zed said, you know, were implemented for safety measures here, shortening, you know, the crosswalk, and, you know, so it can be more visible and slow down traffic more that the residents kind of requested, you know. We slowed down the traffic there on Civic Center. Next slide, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kenny Nguyen from Public Works Agency. I'm the project manager for Bush Street project. Tonight, I would like to give you an update on this project. So the limit is from Civic Center to 17th Street, and William mentioned. We also coordinate with the fire department because Bush Street is one of the corridors that fire truck access very frequently. So we have to pace out where the location of the traffic circle and also the bulb outs so that their fire vehicle could pass through without any too much obstruction. So for this corridor, we are proposed traffic circle from your right hand side is at near 8th Street, 9th Street, 12th Street, and 16th Street. Those are the circle on this slide right here. And then we also install traffic, a bulb out at 10th Street, 11th Street, and 14th Street. Those are the red square on this figure right here. Also on top of that, we also upgrade some of the water and sewers facility between 8th Street to 14th Street. And additionally, also in this traffic circle and nearby the bulb out area, we also adding some landscape in those areas. Next slide, please. So this project for Bush Street, we start the construction at beginning of started Monday. And the plan is to complete this the construction for this project by the end of this year. We are currently analyze the water system to make sure that try to minimize the downtime of water service in this corridor. So we will let you know if there's any downtime, and we will notify you before we have to turn off certain service in the area, but we try to minimize that downtime. So also on this slide right here is you could see that the contractor Excel Paving, and from the city inspector for this project is Rick and Terrence, and that's their contact info. So if you have any question, you might contact them, or you also contact me too. So now I'm going to turn back to Gilbert to update on the Civic Center project.
Kenny, one quick question. What's the value of Bush Street Bicycle Boulevard?
The bike alone is $1.2 million. The water and sewer improvement is another $1.1 million, so about like $2.3 million.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll give you guys a status here on the Civic Center drive. The contractor is Aramex. They started at the beginning of the year. So they've been moving pretty good. They've completed the traffic signal at Main and Civic Center already. That's completed with, new wheelchair ramps at four corners. They completed the bulb outs on Spurgeon and Civic Center. That's all completed. And French Street is all completed. And that one's, we're just waiting. Actually, there are contractors working on the irrigation system on French Street because we have some landscaping there. And between Spurgeon and French, I don't know if you guys noticed out there, but there's a new median there also. The contractors working on their irrigation system, so we'll have some new planting there with a couple of trees in the median. And the next one is Minter, which they completed about a couple weeks ago. That one has a full traffic circle with the bulb outs. As you can see, they're going to have some landscaping in there. They're actually working on the irrigation, but all the hard concrete's done. The pavement's done there, so we're just waiting for him to finish wrapping up the irrigation. And I was just notified by them today that they're gonna do the striping from Main all the way to Minter. I don't know if the residents have seen, they have like some cat tracks, white paint there. Our traffic division's trying to improve that, and they told me that hopefully the week of August they'll do the final striping from Main all the way to Minter. And currently the contractor's doing the demo on Lacy, so there you'll see some removal starting there at Lacy, so they can pretty much, it's going to be the same image as Minter. Next slide. Oh, I'm sorry. Inspector for this one is Gerardo Lechua. So if the residents have any questions and stuff, concerns about access and drive access and traffic control, you can contact him. His number is there. Next slide, please.
So we wanted to tell the community a little bit about the neighborhood traffic concerns that we've been hearing over the years. And those concerns have led us to secure these grants. When we've secured these grants, we're also doing paving improvements, but and we try to do more with the dollars that we've been granted. But the neighborhood concerns that we've heard over the years include concerns with nearby developments, other public works projects, and some of the coordination efforts that's necessary so that one project is in harmony with another. We've also heard that the community is concerned with the lack of stop sign compliance, speeding, traffic intrusion, which is another word for also cut through traffic, and the fact that we need to continue to respect any historic neighborhoods. So we've heard these concerns, and we're really excited about these two projects because we believe that these two projects address a lot of what you see up here. While some of the nearby developments are going to generate some traffic, moving into the future, we are not going to be widening or providing more capacity on our streets. The two exceptions are the Bristol widening project and the Warner. But other than those two projects, we are not really going to be widening streets and providing more capacity. So we have to find different ways of mobility. And so that's why we're really excited about these two projects, because not only are we achieving traffic safety, but we're providing a better mobility option to allow pedestrians and bicyclists in a harmonious way. We are also coordinating with our police so that we can achieve maybe better enforcement. We hope to have better stop sign compliance. And you will notice that when these projects are constructed, because of the bulb outs and the traffic circles, speeds are naturally going to come down. That will also help us with some of the traffic intrusion that some of the neighborhoods are concerned about. And we will always keep historic neighborhoods in mind in anything we do by being more transparent and having more of these meetings and being in close contact and coordination with our neighborhoods. This will be a natural, this will be a factor that we naturally take into consideration. I'm sorry. What some of the things that we're going to be following up on is that once these projects are constructed, which is probably late this year, we will be coming back and taking traffic counts. We will be measuring speeds, and we will have another follow-up meeting to discuss what are the next steps that we need to take. We also need to consider maybe some of the projects that are under design today that will be in construction tomorrow. We have a few bikeway projects. We also have grant applications that we're going to be submitting for Washington Street, which is in the same neighborhood. We also, of course, have the streetcar, which we hope to have in operation in 2022. But again, this is going to be an ongoing effort where we come back with the neighborhoods, we meet with you to check in as to how we're dealing with old concerns, and maybe new concerns will resurface. But we're really excited about these projects, and it's pretty amazing on how much funding is being concentrated in this particular area. Zed, I don't know if you have anything to offer about our neighborhood traffic concerns.
No, I think you covered it. I think you covered it well.
Okay, next slide, please. We wanted to show that there are some questions we've received, and we wanted to read the question and provide what our response is, and maybe this would lead into some other questions by the participants. One question we have received is, are they going to paint lines on Civic Center Drive? And the answer is yes. We're going to restripe with yellow edging around the roundabouts. We will put in the warning signs that are necessary to guide drivers around the traffic circles. And we're going to make sure that traffic is moving counterclockwise around the traffic circles. So yes, the answer is yes, we will be painting signs and lane lines and markings. The other question was, will there be stop signs on the side streets that lead into Civic Center Drive? And the answer is that all of the minor streets that approach Civic Center Drive and approach the bicycle boulevards will continue to have stop signs. So Civic Center Drive, vehicles on Civic Center Drive will continue to have the right of way, and all of the side streets will need to stop. And the third question that we had is, will pedestrians be allowed to cross at intersections? And the answer is that the intersections will have marked crosswalks, and yes, these crosswalks will be installed. And with the added bulb outs, the crossing distance that pedestrians navigate will be much shorter. So pedestrians will be much less exposed to traffic. So they will reduce the travel distance between streets. And we think that this will make it easier and safer to cross the streets. So this concludes our presentation, and we'd be happy to take in any questions that the community might have.
Thank you, William, and thank you, Nabil, and to the entire Public Works engineering team for the presentation. We do have numerous questions that have come in that people have entered into the question box. And so I'll start rattling off some of these questions. Our council member, David Penaloza, requested that there be consideration given to the design of the traffic circles to make sure that they fit the character of the neighborhoods themselves. And so that was an observation that he had that he wanted to share. We'll be providing Public Works with a detailed record of all these questions, but I'll try and summarize most of them tonight for you. One of the questions, there were a few questions about a multitude of traffic concerns around the neighborhoods. And I think, William, you started to address sort of the comprehensive nature of some of the things that you were looking at, but you may want to take another look at a couple of these questions that Tishley Owen had, for instance. What about traffic that's cutting through our neighborhoods? What about the numerous traffic concerns that we had discussed last year? Is there any status on any of those? And so that's, there's also a question, you may have answered this, but when will the sidewalk at Minter and Civic Center be completed? The observation is that it's hazardous the way that it is right now for pedestrians to cross the street during construction.
I'm wondering if Gilbert is on the line, and maybe Gilbert can answer the question on the sidewalk at the Minter and Civic Center.
Okay, Gilbert, we've unmuted your mic. You're self-muted right now, so you'll have to unmute your mic in order to respond. Gilbert Castillo.
That's you. You hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I believe all the sidewalk is complete on Minter. Those big areas that you guys see there with dirt, those are going to be the landscaping areas. So that's why you know, you'll see those dirt areas and stuff. But you know, you'll see the curb ramps for the handicap to cross at, you know, all four legs and stuff. I'm gonna talk to my inspector tomorrow and tell him to put some, you know, barricades there. Make sure, you know, they coned off, you know, those areas. I know it's kind of a, you know, looks like a little ditch there and stuff. So for safety purposes, I'll contact him tomorrow to make sure he puts something around there so people won't walk through there.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Tabitha shared that she thinks it's looking great so far and she could see the benefits. She also indicates that she appreciates all the crosswalks, and will that be done on Santa Ana Boulevard as well, so that people can safely walk from French Park and Lacy to downtown?
As far as the crosswalks on Santa Ana, I'd have to look at the plans that were designed for the streetcar. The streetcar is running on Santa Ana in this neighborhood. And so that's a design that went through CPUC review and OCTA review and Caltrans review. And so it's going to be really based on what the plans call out for. The streetcar, the speed of the cars themselves are not a high-speed streetcar. So navigating and crossing Santa Ana Boulevard shouldn't be any more dangerous than it is. Of course, we'd like to make it safer. We think that with a lot of these street improvements that we're building citywide, we're getting the message out to slow vehicles down. And so that was going to be leading me into one of the questions about cut-through traffic. If I may just make a quick comment, we have successfully reduced quite a few speeds on our major arterial corridors. We will continue to focus on reducing traffic speeds, and we think these two projects are going to significantly reduce the speeds, and we're hoping that that will also help us reduce some of the cut-through traffic. However, we also need to revise our speed hump policy and our neighborhood speed controls that we have in place. And so we are working with that and police so that we can revise that policy and maybe perhaps make it easier and to place speed humps in more logical locations. And that would certainly help with some of the cut-through traffic that we have.
Yeah, so that gets to like a question that Tish Leon had, which is, so there are going to be no speed bumps or diverters in the neighborhoods themselves?
Not as part of these two projects. We will continue to look at neighborhood safety holistically. These two projects are just projects that are one component out of many. So we will still be looking at neighborhood speed control and neighborhood speed management.
Okay. Larry had a couple observations. He was asking whether street lighting was going to be improved on Civic Center, and he also shared that there's a lot of motor vehicles that race up and down Civic Center Drive, and what can be done about that?
Well, I think that these traffic circles and bulb outs are going to, dissuade speeders. They'll probably go somewhere else because it's quite difficult to navigate around traffic circles and bulb outs. I'm sure it can be done, but it's a little uncomfortable. And that's what we've tried to do is we want to make it more uncomfortable for the drivers. We have some speeding and speed dragging issues in other neighborhoods, and we are coordinating with police on trying to improve enforcement so that we can stop that from occurring.
Okay, Jenna McCarty had an observation, and I'll read this to you. It has to do with landscaping. The project focused on the traffic, but it didn't seem to take into consideration the residents who actually really valued the landscape space. We had poured a lot of time and energy and money into the landscape that we were responsible, and we did not know that the city was taking over responsibility for the property. And so that they feel that that was very disheartening.
I'm not sure I fully understand the question, but I think that part of it is that when we applied for the grants, the grants themselves covered the bulb outs, the paving, and some of the hardscape. The grants was very, very skinny on landscaping. And so we did as much landscaping as we could. We also provided with the option to convert some of the hardscape pavers and colored concrete into landscaping. So we tried to make the projects as beautiful as possible within the funding that we have. If we are able to secure additional funding, then we certainly can enhance the hardscape to include more landscaping.
Okay, very good. And so just a quick reminder that we will be forwarding all of your questions, comments, and concerns to the Public Works team so that they'll be able to take a closer look at them and be able to the extent necessary, respond to you in greater detail. I think that really captures the essence of most of the questions from the meeting tonight. Thank you very much to William and Nabil and your team at Public Works for this particular segment, this particular presentation. As many of you, our residents know, we're sort of operating in a very new environment in that we're not able to come together at schools or community centers to have neighborhood meetings the way we have in the past. And so we're experimenting and trying to offer a way for residents like yourselves to continue to stay informed. And we're open to suggestions and critique and comments from residents as well as we fine tune and kind of perfect some sort of approach to be able to offer these virtual meetings until some point in time that we're all able to safely get back together at parks and community centers and schools. And so during the interim, our office, our neighborhood initiatives office, will continue to consult with the point people, you know, the leaders of your neighborhoods. And we welcome the opportunity to kind of bring your neighborhood back together at some point in the future to talk about any and all topics that you have an interest or concern about. And so I want to thank again our production team here at City Hall for this meeting, all of our presenters. And with that, we're going to call this meeting a wrap. Good evening to everyone.
Thank you. Good evening.